all data that's being gathered en masse, right? Well, what's interesting about the real world data from this proliferation of sensors, right? The traffic lights are all monitoring you and able to do facial recognition, stuff like this. What's interesting about this kind of far future 1984 scenario is that all those real world sensors are having all your data aggregated and sold and traded without you ever knowing it's being obtained.
Now, because your corporeal self has rights. But if I can simulate you, if I can have enough information about you that I can build a simulation of you, I can put that simulation in a lab. And I can prod it, and I can psychoanalyze it, and I can study it all I want using whatever techniques I want. Because your simulation has no rights under the law today. So that's one of the things that we need to change. This is not just a technical issue. This is also a matter of legislation.
And finally, we argue that the individual contributions that people make to the digital economy should be treated as essentially labor, and that there should be a labor movement of people who are contributing that data to organize to demand a fair share of the value created by their data from companies like Google, Facebook, and Microsoft, because increasingly people are worried about artificial intelligence taking people's jobs. But as all of us here know, all that artificial intelligence is trained based on human data. And it's, in fact, a lot more like some sort of broadcasting of our data than it is just brilliant engineers programming computers to go and take people's jobs. And so if people were more fairly compensated for their data, the digital economy would be a source of economic opportunity for people rather than an economic threat.
So what AI needs the most is to have data so that AI can learn. But right now, all data are concentrated as centralized platforms. So there's very little incentive for individuals to contribute data because they basically get nothing in return. And maybe their privacy could even be violated. So I envision the future of the world where the ownership of the data should be completely returned to the individuals. So all my personal data, all my behavior data, all my online data, all my genomics data, all my medical records, everything should be owned by the individual, and the privacy should be completely protected. But then you say, wow, then how can machine possibly learn anything if everybody keeps their secret private? And there is a beautiful thing called privacy-preserving computation. And that will make it possible to have a data marketplace. So I first of all protected all my privacy data, but I can leak information out 1 bit at a time, totally at my control. And such a world will be a data marketplace. Individually, so it's a peer-to-peer marketplace where individually own their private data, and then there can be a bidding and selling process and very selectively controlled by performing privacy-preserving data marketplace. So such a future world of marketplace based on one principle, which I call in math we trust. And that is possible that that you can still preserve privacy, but still maintain, but still can do computation that only leaks out very, very selectively one piece of information at a time.
But math in this day and age is like a giant set of power tools that we're leaving on the floor, not plugged in health, while we use hand saws. If we have a lot of shared genotypes and a lot of shared outcomes and a lot of shared lifestyle choices and a lot of shared environmental information, we can start to tease out the correlations between subtle variations in people, the choices they make, and the health that they create as a result of those choices. And there's open source infrastructure to do all of this.
So I really think about this world where both AI and blockchain combined can do great social good in this new era of crypto-economic science based on in math we trust. Because when you really think about what's the problem with our society today, it's because there's discrimination against minority. And that is a fundamental of our society. But when you really think about AI learning, let's say if my AI algorithm is already working accurately 90% of the time, but I want some extra data so that I can go from 90% to 99%. The data I need is not yet another kind of data which looks very similar to all the previous data I have seen. I want data which is called to have high mutual entropy, namely the data that's most distinct. And that, by definition, is owned by the minority. But then in such a data marketplace, I will bid the highest for those data which are most in the minority. So then the economic incentive structure will be aligned, or society will be value the minority the most. And that's exactly what we need to do social good. So finally, there's a vision that the ugly duckling can somehow become a beautiful swan. Because the ugly duckling is not ugly, it's different. But now difference will be valued the most. Minorities in this fair data marketplace will not be discriminated against. So I really see this wonderful new world in a confluence of three major trends: quantum computing, AI, and blockchain. But I also see myself coming from academia and often in interactions with colleagues in industry, we really can enter a new world where the latest scientific idea, it's really, really fascinating and totally amazing that these mathematical concepts was purely invented by mathematicians in abstract could turn out to be so useful. So something like number theory, every day when we conduct a transaction using HTTPS, uses number theory in the most essential way. So this is a wonderful new world where collaboration with academia and the industry can really lead to great progress. As I said, the greatest opportunity of making progress is oftentimes see a conference of some major trends before anyone who is in their specialized area couldn't see the overall picture. And I really think that the symbiosis among these three major trends will be the defining characteristic of the future of information technology.